Good morning, everybody, and happy Wednesday. Welcome to Business Live Mastery Wednesdays. My name is Cheston Bolgen, and we're going to talk about myself a little bit in a little bit. And welcome. I want to just welcome you to today's conversation. Great to be with you. It's January 31st. It's already the first month is over in 2024. Man, how have you been doing so far this year? Um, I am personally excited about what's going to happen in 2024, what is happening in 2024, or where we are. Love what we do, love helping people like you and what they're up to in business. And I love being able to have conversations with you like this on a Wednesday morning that really deal with how to improve the performance of your business in so many ways, especially when it comes to your bottom line, making more profits, keeping that cash in the bank. So without further ado, I want to make sure we get into it today. I love that music, man, in the background. I feel like I'm a superhero. I am a superhero. That's what it says on the bottom of my name. Let's go, guys. All right, so welcome, everybody. Boom. Let's make this a little bigger here. All right, so welcome, everybody. My name is Cheston Bolgen. Like I said before, I am the senior consultant and founder, CFO over here at By the Books Consulting. This is how you reach us, 888-4BTB now. You can also reach us at our website, bythebooksconsultants.com or youraccountingsuperhero.com, and that's my email address. And when you have that email, please don't abuse it, guys, and make sure you reach out to me for something specific. We help you in the areas of accounting, like we are QuickBooks Pro Advisors, tax strategy, tax planning, business advisory, those things. Specifically, if you have a trucking company, we're your people to help you handle that area of your business, all those areas of business when it comes to tax compliance, accounting, being very dialed into performance with your business. Those are the things that we actually help you with. All right. And with that being said, let's get into our conversation, guys. Quick disclaimer before we do. The following is for educational purposes only, is not to be considered financial, accounting, or legal advice. Please consult your tax, accounting, and or legal professional for specific advice. Okay. And there are some fundamentals that we have here in this live webinar, this business mastery live webinar, the fundamentals that really help you stay grounded, like you and I, grounded in success inside of what we do. And the first thing is intentionality. Another term we use for that is mindset mastery. This is the first thing that we want to have in place. It is super important to master and cultivate the garden of your mind. Okay. And we call it intentionality because we focus on exactly what it is that we're up to. All right. There's an absolute focus that wants to be. And if we allow ourselves to stay there with the things that we're up to in life, for example, you want to grow your business this year in 2024, anything related to that is what you actually keep in the forefront of your mind. Anything that's not, we just put that to the wayside. It doesn't matter. Okay. So that's what intentionality looks like. Now, if we have this one principle in place alone, then there are results with velocity. You can do a lot more because you're just not wasting time. Okay. Excuse me, guys. Financial mastery, big deal. Okay. Financial literacy is the other thing that we have to say about all the other terminology we use here inside of financial masteries. We call it financial literacy, and actually using that number story to gain traction in our business. All right. So that's super important. Structures, system mastery is another thing that another terminology we use for that. So structures or system mastery, we can do more. We can leverage more with less effort through system mastery principle here. And then we have actions, which is what we call execution mastery. So there's a game plan. We put all these other things into alignment, and then we take the actions that are in line. We go out here and execute in alignment with what we're up to in life. Then we win. Okay. So these four, if you take a look inside of where you are in business, and if you're not achieving like a specific result that you want to realize out here in real life, then it's probably in this area, one of these areas that it's a little out of line. Okay. And that's what I want to say about that. Now, if you want to know more about these principles, you can watch some of the other videos on YouTube that we do here on the Business Live Mastery Wednesday workshops. So a whole resource of information there, a lot of videos there that you can watch to get more insight to this. All right, so today's conversation, I want to get into cash flow, okay? And specifically factoring and how that's impacting cash flow, and how inside of the trucking industry, how you can be responsible for cash flow always when it comes to factoring. This is really good because I see a lot of lack of what I see is a lack of awareness, to be straight. I see a lack of awareness about the impacts of factoring. Factoring is a really, really good tool to use inside of a trucking company if you're getting started, because it gives you an upfront injection of cash for services performed. At the same time, we want to start thinking down the line, like long term, like what it is that we're doing here as a company, and how we're actually operating in a way that leaves us winning, and when it comes to cash flow all the way around. So just a quick background. I'm going to guess that a lot of people who are watching this, who are with me today, they have a general understanding what factoring is. Okay, if you're in the trucking industry, then most likely you actually use a factoring company to help manage cash flow inside of your business. Now, just to put it out here so that it's clear, and factoring is a type of financing agreement, okay, where a creditor buys the rights to, or the credit risk of, a company's accounts receivables. All right, so basically they're buying invoices. Your future payments is what they're buying from you, okay? Just to be clear, all right, this is not income. Sometimes people think that it's income and report it as income to themselves when they receive money for a factoring company. I've seen that. So it's not, okay? This is a strictly inside of cash flow management. This is financing, to be straight, cash flow from financing activities. Okay, so you get an injection of cash from your factoring company to help manage your day-to-day operations. So you don't have to wait and receive money for invoices that pay 30, 45, or 60 days later. So there's a benefit to that, okay? Now, the main benefit is that, you specifically, if you're in a trucking company, you're going out here, you're paying for your drivers, you're paying for fuel, you're paying for maintenance, and you're doing everything you need to do to honor your agreement, which is to deliver that load or provide that service through trucking, right? And at the end of the day, when you deliver, you send out a piece of paperwork, you send all this paperwork, in return, you're going to get paid. But they don't pay you right away. In most cases, they're going to pay you later on. But how do you manage all those expenses in the meantime? This is a real good way, especially in the beginning, to manage all those expenses, okay? And we want to understand the impacts, okay? So two types of factoring that we have here. We have recourse and non-recourse factoring. And by the way, there's a cost. Of course, there's a cost associated to factoring. They call it a discounted rate. Sometimes it's 1%, sometimes it's 7%, somewhere in between 1 and 2 is what we see typically. Somewhere between 1 and 7% is what they charge you to advance you on your invoices, okay? All right, so that's the cost that we want to consider, and we don't necessarily see that cost a lot up front. If you're paying attention, you will, okay? But the main thing that people really get locked into is the fact that now I get paid for what I do, okay? But the impact is, okay, cost. It's costing me 3%, it's costing me 4%, it's 5%. There's a cost associated to that, or it's cost associated with that. Now, inside of the factoring, we have two types. It's called recourse and non-recourse. So recourse factoring, inside of that, it means that, well, if your customers, for whatever reason, they don't pay, well, you're still on the hook for that money. So if your factoring company fronted you that money and they don't get paid by your customers, then they're going to come back to you to receive those funds that they advance to you. Okay. So, and they're going to charge, a lot of times it's like a rate that they charge per days over. Like if they haven't paid in the time frame that they were supposed to, per days over, they're going to charge an additional percentage rate for the amount that has not been collected. Okay. And they're going to come back to you if that doesn't get collected. They're going to come back and they're going to collect that from you. Okay, that's recourse. And most of them, like a lot of these factoring companies, they'll have a recourse type situation. Now, non-recourse means that the factoring company will assume all the risks. If your customers, for whatever reason, they don't pay, well, guess what? They're not going to come back to you. All right. Now, they'll take that responsibility. They'll take that risk. At the same time, because they assume the risk, the cost, the fee of the factoring will typically be higher than you would pay somewhere else or for a recourse factoring arrangement, if that makes sense. Okay. So that's one impact, cost. Two, like future cash flow could be at risk. That's two things that we can take a look at here. All right. So I'm laying the groundwork just in case none of us understood what factoring was. And I'm hoping based on what I said that you understand it now. Okay. So factoring, basically, we're getting advanced on invoices, right? It's a financing agreement where they're purchasing your invoices, your accounts receivable, right? And they're charging you a fee in terms of a discount rate in order to do that. And for recourse, if for whatever reason your customer does not pay, they'll come back to you to get paid and they'll charge you for it if it's like way over. And non-recourse factoring company does not come back after you. They assume the risk, but they're going to charge you more upfront. All right. So that is that, guys. So hopefully we have a good understanding right now of factoring, because we're about to move into the next part of this conversation, which is going to make a real big difference here inside of making sure that you're always going to be good when it comes to having profits and cash flow. Okay. Like cash flow for your business that's not going to be impacted by your lack of understanding how factoring works and lack of processes because you have a certain thought around factoring. Okay. So we're going to shift that paradigm to make sure that you're good to go when it comes to having factoring for your business. And when you decide, if you decide to move out of factoring, you'll already be set up to win that way as well. Okay. So I had a client that came to me. All right. So this is a client that came to me. They use factoring. Excuse me. Been in the business for a while. Like they've been in business for nearly a decade, right? And they use factoring. I'm saying that for a reason because typically this is what I would like to see. If a company, if you have a trucking company and you use factoring, I would like to see you be able to move out of factoring. It's an additional cost that's not necessarily needed. It's not necessary. Okay. In some cases, you can save a lot of money just by having the proper systems in place to have cash flow sustained internally without the need of financing cash flow. All right. And that's going to be another conversation altogether that we could have about how to move out of factoring and how to sustain cash flow. The things that you're going to learn here today will be a foundation for that. But we want to stick here to the conversation today. And this is what I really want you to get out of the conversation today is how to actually manage your factoring agreements and relationships, and the fact that you use that in a way that has you win all the time, right? So you're not going to have a risk of exposure to recourse in the event that you have a recourse factoring company that you're working with. And you're going to have like the really good systems in place to make sure that you're going to be good no matter what, whether you use factoring or whether you don't use factoring, you're going to be good, all right, in terms of cash flow. All right. So this company that came to me recently because, you know, the factoring companies, without to get too technical, they have a reserve. A lot of the times they'll require that you have a reserve cash balance with them. So they'll put money aside into a reserve account. All right. And that's to help manage whatever risk in terms of, in terms of if your customers don't pay for whatever reason, that's a risk management tool for the factoring company to have it so that there's going to be funds to draw from in the event that somebody does not pay. Okay, so that's the relationship they have with this particular factoring company. They have this reserve account. Now, from this reserve account, get this, right? So this is how it works. From this reserve account, they'll take money in terms of chargebacks if their customer does not pay on time. If it goes beyond, let's say, 60 days past due, well, they'll hit that reserve for the amount that they fronted for the factoring, plus whatever fees that they charge per day, like as far as interest rates for holding that beyond the time that it was due. So they'll hit that reserve account. So his client, man, he was like, man, I want to see like how much we're actually paying in like these chargebacks is what they call it. It's a chargeback. When people don't pay, they're going to charge it back and hit this reserve account because that's cash money that they can see going out of that reserve, right? And that's cash money that they could have actually released to them to use for other things in business, like paying their people, their drivers, right? Like handling payroll and investing in growing the fleet, those things. But that cash is actually going back to the factoring company. Okay, so that's what they're experiencing, and they want to see, well, what is the reserves? Because up until this point, we didn't have a reporting specifically for that line item inside of the reserve account that they have. We had a line item for the reserve account and the balance there to reconcile it. But inside of that, they want to see, well, how much is the reserve being charged back over time? I was like, wow, this guy, man, I love it. I love it when people want more granularity inside of their reporting, so they can see and become aware of what's going on in the business. Because if we're not aware, things happen and we miss opportunities, right? We miss opportunities to become more effective inside of what we do. We miss opportunities to actually make more money in the business. So I'm like, man, fantastic. Let's do that. Yeah, let's go. Right. So we created that. At the same time, when I created that for him, I'm thinking, well, this is really a lagging indicator. It's not really like, what is it really going to give him? It's going to give him the visual of how much of is being charged back, but it's not really giving him access to transforming that situation into a win. What if he didn't have to have the chargebacks? Period. Well, seeing it is one thing. Being able to transform that is a completely different story, right? So what do we do there in terms of being able to transform that situation into a win where I don't have the chargebacks, where that company does not have the chargebacks at all? Well, there's a root issue here inside of what we're dealing with, okay? The root issue is, well, for this particular company, they're going to be they're invoicing and sending these invoices over to factoring as soon as they do the job, right? So they want to boom, 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 get these invoices right out. At the end of the day, whenever they drop off, whenever they deliver, whenever they complete a job, they want to get those invoices out as soon as possible, right, to the factoring company. Sounds good, right? That's what any business will want to do. And really, that speed and efficiency is what we all want. But here's the thing. It takes their customers a while to approve. Approve these invoices, right? So on their customers' end, they haven't even approved the invoice for submission, even though they've done the job. So there's a process there in which, and I know like if like some of you people go out here, some of you people, right? Some of you people go out here and you drop off freight, and then your drivers, they don't have like the bills, like the proper paperwork, they don't have the bill of lading, they don't have like the lumper receipts, they don't have all the paperwork in order, right? To submit. And sometimes you're going to submit these invoices to your customers without everything that they required you to submit, the paperwork. And because that happens, the invoice that gets rejected and they're not going to pay on it until they get everything that they need. It slows things down, right? So it's the same thing. So this particular company is in the oil industry, the energy industry, and there are things that they need to submit. There are a lot of things that go along with submitting invoices in order for that customer to approve this to be paid out and submit this to billing, right, to their payable department. Okay, so what's happening is that this company, get this, guys, this company, my client that came to me, they're just taking whatever jobs they did, regardless of whether or not it has been approved by the customer, and submitting it to the factoring company, right? So what this does is it causes a disconnect between, well, has that really been invoiced? In their customers' eyes, well, no, it hasn't. So the invoicing period has not even started. It's not even day 0, day 1 with that. But when they submit it to the factoring company sees it as day 1 invoice, which means that they have so many days in order to receive payment on this before it goes to being charged back. So if you follow me on this, right? If you follow me on this, they're submitting invoices that are not real invoices because it had not yet been approved by their customers. And because it had not yet been approved by their customers are not paying on this invoice until it has been approved, whether they need to get the paperwork necessary to fully approve it, right, later on. And then that aging process, the process by which they said, okay, now it's approved until the time they pay out, starts later than that process began with the factoring company. There's a gap. Usually it's just like 2 weeks, 3 weeks, whatever that looks like. And that has an impact, mainly meaning they're going to get that cash taken out of their business in the future because it's going to be charged back. All right. So hopefully you guys are getting that, right? And they're losing money there in chargebacks and financing charges because there's a process gap. So it wants to be, okay, we need to make sure that we only submit invoices to the factoring company that are approved by the customers. Now, if we do that, then we automatically reduce the amount of exposure to chargeback risk. Number one. Now, there's something that shows up, right? I want to point this out here. It's like, but I just did this job and I want to get paid for the job that I do. So I need to submit this to my factoring company in order to get paid for the jobs that we do so that we can have enough cash now. Yeah, I get that, right? We want to make sure that we're doing what we can to have the factoring company, if we have the relationship, pay the money now. And it lacks integrity. Right? It lacks integrity. So because we do things that lack integrity, we suffer the consequences for lack of integrity, which is okay with chargebacks now. Right? Now, the other thing is, well, what are we doing to ensure that if we had no factoring company whatsoever, right? No factoring company whatsoever involved, what would those processes be like with integrity, right? I want to operate my company as if it's sustaining cash on its own, even though I have a factoring relationship. Well, what does that really look like? Well, it means that, yeah, we have a billing process. We send out invoices and make sure all the paperwork's sent on time, right? That's the job, making sure that every driver, every person that's related to that load submits the paperwork timely. It means right away after that load is delivered, after that job is done, paperwork is submitted specifically in the same way over and over again, right? Right now, speed and accuracy. All the documents clear and legible, every ticket associated with it, every BOL associated with it, it goes in right now. All right. So that's number one. That reduces the time frame at which the end customer will be able to approve invoices for payout. Okay. There was to also be a collections process, a follow-up process in the billing. Okay, did you receive my everything that you needed for this load to make sure that it's good to go? Can we get this approval on it today? Right. So if your people in your billing department are not doing that when they submit all their invoices for the day, that little follow-up email sequence or a phone call, whatever that looks like. Hey, did you receive this invoice? Can we get it approved today? That would improve the speed at which these things would pay out. Now, whether you have factoring or not, that's something that we want to do. But what this does with a factoring relationship, it ensures that we reduce the risk of a customer not paying on time, which reduces the risk of us having money taken out of our pocket later on through chargebacks. Okay. Reminders. Right. So automated reminders. Hey, look, we have this invoice scheduled for payment in the next 7 days. Just a reminder. This ensures that down the line, your people are going to pay, right? Whether it's to you or to the factoring company. 3 days before payment. Oh, yeah, here's just another reminder. Your payment is due in 3 days, right? Automatic. What if we had those processes in place, right? Now, sometimes what I hear inside of a conversation with people I talk with who use factoring is that, yeah, we have factoring. They're like our billing department, but no, they're not. They're not like your billing department. They are a separate company altogether. They're not going to be responsible for everything that goes on in your company. You are, okay? That's just how it goes. You, at the end of the day, you are responsible for your business, and an outside company is not your accounts payable or accounts receivable department. Okay. So you want to have that in place. You want to have those structures in place for your own business, like your accounts receivable running, right? Because what a factoring company will do, they'll end up just taking money back from you at the end of the day because they're a separate business altogether and they're looking to make sure they make money. They're not your accounts receivable department. They're there to make sure that they make the money. Okay. But the part that wants to be in place, the thing that wants to be in place for your business is this SOP to ensure that all your clients, your customers, they are paying on time. So what I want to leave you with in this conversation is that, all right, there's a risk associated with factoring that we are not present to, right? Because there's an impact in terms of long-term cash flow impacts, right? Profitability, like profits will be lost, okay, through the discount rate. Number two, there is a fee associated when the customers don't pay on time and the aging is over the amount of time in which they were supposed to pay. They usually charge an interest rate at a daily rate for those invoices not being received, right? So you're actually eating in more so into the profits, right? And then if they don't pay altogether, they will do a chargeback, which means that they will take cash from you. Now, there are some cases in which companies you work with a factoring relationship and engagement, and instead of like to charge back the reserve account, they just won't factor future loads. You'll end up dropping off loads and submitting those loads to get paid, the invoices to get paid through your factoring company, and they just won't pay you for that future load because another customer had not paid their amount that's due. Okay, so those are the things that we want to keep clear and present. That sometimes we think that it's like, it sucks, man, that I get a chargeback. It sucks that I'm paying all these fees. Now, there are things that you and I can do specifically to manage the risk in terms of having a SOP in a business, a protocol in business, to ensure that these invoices that are being paid on down the line, that they are going to be paid on, so that you don't have to even worry about the risk, or at least it's drastically reduced for the amount of chargebacks that you're going to have, or the amount of recourse that you're going to have because somebody just didn't pay. And then, guess what, guys? Reduced chargebacks equals faster receivable turnover, which basically means that more clients pay on time, which equals more cash in your bank account. All right. Now, for my particular client, the story I was telling about, man, $25,000, $30,000 in a month in chargebacks. Well, what could you do with $30,000, $25,000 every single month coming back to you because you just don't have chargebacks at all? That's an opportunity, right? An opportunity to do major things. You could actually fund your retirement. You can actually put your kid through college now with this extra cash that's coming back to you. You could reinvest the funds into your business and grow it faster, right? You could actually hire somebody, right, to manage some other aspect of the business, freeing up your time. But these inefficiencies, they have true costs to them, right? So the bottom line here, and what I want to leave you with in this conversation, is take charge, take control, be the owner of this aspect of business to make sure that you will always have cash in the bank now and forever. All right, guys, thank you. It's great being with you. I'm hoping you got some value out of that conversation today. All right. Now, if you ever need assistance with things like this, putting together, seeing a clear picture, you reach us, 888-4BTB now. That's 888-428-2669. All right, guys. Take care. See you next week. Hope you're having a great rest of your week and a great rest of your day. Bye.